applicant to continue this use. The next concern was how the restrictions against on-site alcohol consumption will be enforced, and the applicant's agent indicated that well, they didn't actually indicate a response, but as I mentioned, there were 3 members of the public who spoke in favor of the application and vouched for the honesty and the character of the applicant, and indirectly supporting the position that the applicant would restrict the use to what is legally permitted, because that's what they said that they would do. The department notes that the New York State Liquor Authority violations can cause a liquor license to be suspended or canceled if there are any violations. And we had discussed, the planning board had discussed requiring as a condition of approval of the subject plan that any changes to the proposed use of the site with respect to the liquor license be subject to site plan approval again, so that they would come back if there were any changes. There was a question, a concern that it was difficult to read the site plan and whether there actually were 13 parking stalls proposed as was indicated. And the applicant at the hearing pointed out where the parking stalls were and that they were all indicated, and that they had been working with the planning board to define the parking stalls and to make them so that there would be a one-way traffic circulation and an improvement over the kind of free-form parking that's on the site right now. And the planning department agrees that we had been working with the applicant to come up with a more defined parking layout. 13 parking stalls are proposed, including 1 handicapped, that this number meets the parking standards of the zoning code, that there is a defined layout replacing the existing free form that also right now has a wide, long, open curb cut adjoining to the street, allowing for cars to just back out, which won't be there anymore. There was another concern requesting that there be a traffic study before the approval, as the site is near the queuing line for a nearby school and the food pantry that's operating out of the nearby church. Applicant didn't respond at the hearing. We looked at this and note that traffic studies typically evaluate the proposed use with respect to what the use is and what the size is. And we note that the application is to convert an existing 175 square foot shed for an organic wine store that is not anticipated to have to generate a large increase in the amount of traffic in the area. We note that existing peak times for use of the nearby food pantry and the school and the existing Springs General Store can create some traffic backups, but the proposed wine store is not anticipated to add to the traffic at these peak times. We noted that some photographs of Springs General Store were submitted. I think they were showing July 30th. We note that is probably one of the peak traffic and parking days for all of East Hampton, and that is generally not a day that we come up with a parking plan to meet. It's almost like making a shopping mall meet the number of cars that are parked on Christmas Eve, you know, to be able to accommodate them on site. You don't meet the peak parking ever on site. There was a request to improve the parking and circulation to better coordinate with the existing traffic flows and conditions associated with the school and the food pantry operations. They pointed out that there is a pedestrian pathway crosswalk right near the exit. Yeah, that's shown. Thank you, Chris. Right near where the exit for the site is. And we referred this issue to Rayner Group, the consulting engineers for the planning board, and they did not find a problem with the traffic circulation on site, and as it meets the off-site traffic circulation. They did request or suggest that there be the installation of signs for the one-way access on the site. And the planning department was just concerned that, they were suggesting like some DOT signs or whatever, and we were concerned of what that might look like. We're in a historic building in a historic district, and we don't want the signs to be the dominant thing that is seen, so that we would suggest that there will be, that there should be some indication of the one-way traffic flow, but that be subject to the ARB review to come up with either something painted in the street or some sort of sign that will not be the dominant thing that you see associated with Springs General Store. And then there was a comment that the applicant has backed away from the commitment to install a low nitrogen IA septic system at the hearing. And the applicant agent indicated that low nitrogen AI system is not a requirement for this project, and that they had always made it clear that they will install one if the town awards a grant to the project. And they noted that as this is a commercial facility requiring a grease trap, the cost for installing a low nitrogen IA system is much greater than for a single family residence. The planning department checked with the East Hampton Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, and they had previously recommended funding for an IA for this site. It went to the town board. At that point, I think the application had not evolved to the point where it is now, where there's no on-site consumption of alcohol as part of the application. So I believe it was for that reason that the town board declined to go with the recommendation to help fund the IA. We are recommending that the applicant go forward and reapply for a fund, and the grant application opens December 16th and closes in mid-February of 2025. And we note that the town and other private and semi-private facilities in this area have expended a great deal of money and effort to do nitrogen reduction in this area, with the Spring School doing an upgrade, with the town and Cooperative Extension putting in those nitrogen
PRBs,
permeable membrane, and it is a very sensitive part of the harbor, and we would imagine that this would be a very high recommendation for the town to be installing an IA in this area. So that's it for the public hearing comments. The Office of the Fire Prevention had indicated no further review is necessary. And so we have just summarized the items to be approved if you're ready to go forward with it, in terms of what site plans have been prepared. And we note that there was a natural resource special permit issued, and so there are conditions of that must be met. There was a DEC permit issued, and those standards must be met. I think I've covered everything else. So in conclusion, the applicant should be required to resubmit for RFA funding for a low IA system in the upcoming grant round opening on December 16th. We would recommend the planning board determine that the project will not substantially increase the traffic, and therefore no traffic study would be required. That the planning board require directional signs or arrows be installed to alert the drivers to the one-way traffic circulation pattern subject to the ARB to ensure compatibility with the historic character of the area. And the planning board require the applicant to submit site plan approval if changes to the liquor authority license permit or a new permit is sought for the future.
Thanks very much. Okay, the record is closed. So Lou?
Sure. I just have some notes here. I just want to mention, with regard to this application, that I want to clarify that our job as a planning board is not to allow or to design how a business is to be run. whatever permitted use is to be conducted over another, or whether to serve breakfast steak sandwiches or not. That's not our job. We're charged with the authority to determine whether the applicant in establishing its business and structures is doing so within the strictures of the zoning code and good planning without endangering the interests of the community. The look and aesthetics of the site still needs the approval of the ARB, and it's a condition of the planning board anticipated approval, and I think those directional signs is something that they need to look at. I'm also hopeful and optimistic that the applicant will receive the grant it's applied for. I think the town board didn't deny it. I think they said that they were going to wait for planning board approval.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So, and I'm sure they will approve it.
I'm sorry if I misspoke.
It really would be criminal if a new system is not put in on the site because of its close proximity to a very sensitive water body. Also, to address another complaint that the applicant had, this was an application that prompted a large community interest for a number of good reasons. The fear that a longstanding neighborhood treasure would be transformed into a local nuisance, that the consumption of alcohol would attract an unsavory clientele inimical to the area, and that loud music congregations would disturb the peace of the locale. It took longer than the applicant and the planning board would have hoped, but I believe the hard work and patience of all interested parties, including the members of the community, was worth it. I believe we have a plan that mitigates the original fears and one which the applicant can be proud of. And we all wish the owners a ton of success, and I think this application is ready for approval.
Thank you, Luke. Does anybody at the table have anything they want to add? And we will go with the single question before us, which is the application ready for approval?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, the application is ready for approval. We'll have a resolution. When, I guess, the next meeting, but I don't want to commit to the planning board, planning department, but it'll be soon. There'll be a resolution. Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation and for working to get this application to the place that it now is ready for approval. Happy New Year to all. Merry Christmas to all. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda.
Can I refuse?
Oh, okay. Yes. The barn. This is the Hampton 310 LLC barn. Chris, this is yours. Bruce, this is yours.
Yep.
Okay. This is yours. Okay, very good. Okay.
Sam, may I interrupt for 1 minute?
Please.
Can this monitor get turned
Yeah,
on
let me try
also?
to resolve that. We're having some
Yeah.
issues with that one, so if you can
Thank you.
just give me. 10
Sure.
seconds.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Horses. No. They're like too big.
Yay, there we go.
Actually, it's good if you turn.
Step on your foot.
Then you can see. I can scooch over.
We need to get you a spinning chair.
Yes,
Oh, shoot.
that's what I need. There last time. Nice. You're welcome. Much welcome.
There it goes.
Thank you, Chris.
And we have the Zoom.
Oh, I see.
Bear with us a little bit. And another two folks.
This is the next one. That is this car. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we have two barns.
Two barns.
So let's not mix up our barns. This is the Hampton 310 LLC barn.
Yeah. I don't have horses. Jerry.
Yeah, right.
Jerry's having fun. Baseball. Oh, TV now.
What a great movie.
Favorite show.
favorite show is the broadcast of this on Channel
Holiday
22.
special.
Repeated over the weekend.
It's on YouTube.
Apologies for the delay, everyone.
If it's gonna
If
take
it's-
that
yeah, I
long,
can
Chris,
turn
just,
around.
let's just roll with it.
Back to the TV.
I don't know, basketball games tonight.
Goodness.
What are we doing with that?
Yeah, turn on the Sag Harbor concert, school concert. So we just learned that my daughter is a push-ups. She's a push-up winner. She doesn't, teenagers don't talk
Maybe
to us.
more.
It's funny. How old is she?
13. Yeah.
Doing any, are we doing any better? There we go, we got
All
it.
right,
Roll.
we'll go with that. Sorry
Go
about
with
that.
it, good enough.
We're good.
Here's the other monitor was down when we.
You still have.
Don't worry about
wrong
that.
site plan. Yeah.
It's,
There.
what?
I can see it.
Everything's a little messed up with IT right now, but there's the right site plan.
There we go.
There you go, that's it.
Pull
Yeah,
up the
for-
aerial.
Further lane, yeah, that's the
It should
one.
be good with just the site plan, I guess. Apologies for the.
It's a modern art masterpiece.
I think we'll just go with the site plan.
Go with that. It's a barn.
Don't touch anything.
Touch it.
This
yeah.
property is on Further Lane. Can't really see
All you
it
need
with
to
the
know.
map. This is between the Tyson Lanes and Further Lane, sort of towards the eastern end of the East Hampton hamlet, closer to Amagansett, just for location reference. And this will be the board's second time discussing this application as it was first reviewed at the September 25 meeting. So just to give some context on the site, especially for the new board members, subject property is zone A5 residential, and it's 349 and 480 square feet, or just over 8 acres. The entire property has an agricultural conservation easement in the favor of the Peconic Land Trust. The property is within the town agricultural overlay district and is therefore exempt from clearing restrictions. It's also a scenic area of statewide significance, which encourages the protection of views and scenic qualities of the property. And just to note, per conversations with the property manager, the produce grown on site is not sold, and the owners have no intention to ever sell anything produced on site. So background for the application itself, a site plan application has been submitted to relocate a 1,184 square foot barn, shown here in yellow. And that's from Tyson Lane, which is to the south of this property, to the subject property, 310 Further Lane. And the barn is proposed as an agricultural support structure that would be used for equipment storage and the temporary storage of produce grown on site. The proposed barn includes a sink for washing produce, a new septic system, and underground water and electrical service lines connecting to the east to Tyson Lane. The applicant also proposes a pervious driveway and parking area taking access from the eastern side of Tyson Lane indicated here. So moving on to the issues for discussion, following the review of the planning board from the September 25 meeting, the board issued written comments to the applicant regarding several issues. And I'll go over each comment with the applicant's response and the planning department's assessment of each response. So the first comment mentioned that the board had agreed to waive the requirement for additional details on parking to be provided. However, did not waive the requirement for fire hydrant to be added to the site plan. The applicants has since revised to show the fire hydrants, and the planning department is satisfied with that requirement. And then the second comment was that the applicant should revise the site plan to reroute the proposed utility lines to Tyson Lane. Originally, they were going to go north through the orchard to Further Lane, but have since been rerouted to the east to reduce the distance and overall disturbance. Regarding the site navigation and traffic, as I mentioned, the original submission proposed site access across a 450-foot driveway from the west property line to the proposed barn. And the applicant was encouraged to relocate it as such and has then done so with this revised submission. However, where this driveway is taking from access from, there is no gate existing where it connects to Tyson Lane. So the submission should be revised to include a proposed gate on the site plan and provide elevation drawings of such gate, or the proposed driveway should be modified on the site plan to take access from an existing gate on the same property line. And that exists on the same line, but more to the south, and it's something that we asked to be added to the revised submission. It was not included in this one, but when they revise their driveway plan, they should show that existing gate, whether or not they decide to take access using it. So moving on to outdoor lighting, the revised submission includes some details on proposed exterior lighting for the barn. And the planning department notes that no exterior lighting was included in the original submission. So a comprehensive lighting plan, which meets all the provision of the town code as well as planning board guidelines for exterior lighting, should be submitted. Just given that it's the first time a structure with gross floor area is being introduced to the site. And the submission is missing the necessary manufacturer's specification sheets for all the proposed fixtures, as well as a photometric plot plan illustrating lighting incidents and foot candles throughout the site that meet the requirements listed in this evaluation. So the applicant should review the comprehensive site lighting plan requirements and submit that in the revised submission. Regarding the sanitary system, which is proposed, the applicant proposes a gray flow volume of 25 gallons per day, and there's no sanitary flow given that sewage will not be produced on site. There's no bathrooms planned. The only use of water would be connected to the produce washing on site. And the planning department would note that the agricultural conservation easement in place mentions that a leaching or sewage disposal field is prohibited except in accordance with sound agricultural management practices. And the Suffolk County Department of Health Services is requiring the applicant to connect the proposed sink to an IA system, an innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment system. And since the SCDHS, the county, is requiring the system and no sewage disposal is proposed, the planning department finds a proposed IA system would be in accordance with sound agricultural management practices and thus would not have any issues with the easement in place on this property. The planning department notes that the sanitary plan has not been revised from the original submission and still indicates a traditional septic system. Therefore, the applicant should include the AI system in the revised submission. Regarding the Office of Fire Prevention, that has been reviewed by the Chief Fire Marshal and found that the information is submitted and there is no additional review necessary for fire protection purposes. The applicants advised of the additional approvals required from the Architectural Review Board for the structures mentioned, Suffolk County Department of Health Services for the AI system as mentioned, IA system, as well as Suffolk County Planning Commission review will be required given the properties in an agricultural overlay district. So moving on to the necessary elements of a site plan for the submission. in the previous evaluation, the planning board, the applicant was referred to the necessary elements to revise the submission to meet the minimum standards detailed that were missing in the original submission. The board, however, chose to waive the requirement for additional parking details, as I mentioned. However, some of the required items noted in that original evaluation are still not addressed in the most recent submission. So I'll go over those just by letter, and that includes the ones that were not addressed along with the new issues with respect to outdoor lighting. So for B, still missing is the ground elevation of the proposed barn and parking area, just to have an idea if the ground elevation there is still required. And then the eastern gate to Tyson Lane must be indicated and specify whether it is a driveway or vehicle access. And that's the gate that's on this property line further to the south. With respect to lighting, there are elements which I'm not going to repeat, but it's just that a comprehensive lighting plan should be submitted for this section of town code. And then with respect to elevation drawings of buildings and structures, if a new gate is proposed along the eastern property line, elevation drawings should be provided for said gate. So in conclusion, the planning department is satisfied that the proposed driveway and utility lines have been rerouted. The applicant should provide details on the proposed entrance gate or revised plans to use the existing gate on the eastern property line, which should be indicated on the revised submission. The applicant should also provide details on the proposed exterior lighting as indicated above or before. And the planning board unanimously agreed during their last review that the proposal doesn't align with the intent of the agricultural conservation easement. The board should review the necessary elements of the site plan which are missing from the submission and discuss whether they will waive any requirements. And lastly, the applicant must add the proposed IA system onto the revised submission, as I mentioned. Thank you for your patience with those.
Quite all right.
Out there.
I know what we're looking at now. Thanks.
Yeah, at least you guys can see.
Well, we don't get to see the picture of the baseball field next door, but anyway. Does the applicant wish to be heard?
Certainly, Mr. Chair.
Good evening, everyone. Eric Brown, Ackerman Partners for the applicant. Chris, thank you for an excellent memo, as always. We are certainly prepared to address all the deficiencies. I think the gate is not in there because the applicant has not yet decided how they're going to deal with that. It's going to be, you know, a standard farm gate. It's not going to be anything, you know, anything particularly fancy. So we'll get those drawings and elevations to you. The sanitary, now that that's been worked out with the building inspector, the county, and the applicant, we'll have that put on. The lighting, I just want the board to know that if you refer to Ferguson Shemamian's drawing A100.01, there are only 3 exterior lights proposed on this. There's no existing lighting now on the site, and no additional lighting is proposed other than on each end of the west facade of the building and 1 light on the south facade. So we'll supply you with all the, with those lighting specs, but this is not a site that's designed to be utilized after dark. I mean, these are really just, lights that if somebody does have to go there at night, you have some kind of light.
Motion activated?
I don't know. I can find out for you. We could certainly do it that way. Although the amount of deer that go through there, would be, like just go Inferno or something. So, so in any case, that's, there are no other exterior lights proposed for the property. The 3 on the structure are the only ones that are proposed, and we'll submit to everybody the revisions and go from there.
Very well. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Me. Yep. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I think this is actually looking really good. Couple of things, they did the fire hydrant, which I think is super important, along with the utilities along Tyson Lane East. Instead of coming across the orchard, I think that's a great addition to this. Couple questions I had about the gate. And then location of sanitary system and parking, just looking at the survey. Obviously, Chris mentioned there's a gate well further down to the south. I can't imagine you guys are going to be using
No,
that
I
and
think
driving up.
I think we would utilize the access closest to the location where the board had recommended we take access. So I don't think that makes any more sense than coming all the way across the property from the
Right.
west.
So I think with that in mind, there are a lot of mature trees along
Yep.
that eastern edge, so where you're gonna come through is probably pretty important to figure out, because where it is indicated now, I don't think it's gonna work. And then, is there a basement under the barn, or no? Okay, so that'll get to my next point. So, just thinking about the parking area and the sanitary field, I was wondering if maybe that could get flipped and have your water main come in on the north side where your sink is.
Okay.
Because otherwise the water line's coming in on the southeast side, and to get it all the way across the barn without a basement, I think it's gonna be probably pose an issue. So, maybe parking is on the east side, and then, your sanitary is either on the north or the west. The AI system is kind of an interesting concept where I'm not quite sure how that's gonna work with gray water, but I guess that's already been decided. And then the last thing with the lighting, like Eric said, it's just 3 very small lights, 2 on the west side, facing into the property, 8.5 LED wattage, I think is equivalent to like a 75 watt bulb.
Yeah.
It says, frosted glass, so that the source won't be seen. And I guess, with that spec, we probably need a Kelvin temperature for the LED bulb. Other than that, that's it.
Are you okay with the lighting, given the proximity of houses, the residential?
Yeah. We're 200 feet from Further Lane, 80 feet from Tyson, and that's gone. We are
Don't ask to get
a
it.
long way from
Whatever's
everything to the south.
So you're okay with the lighting?
Absolutely, yeah.
Does anybody else have anything they want to add on this? Okay, so does the planning board waive the requirement for a comprehensive lighting plan to be submitted? I'm a little leery about that, just because, if only because it's been added subsequent to the initial application. I
And
think
it's a
that,
small enough amount of lights that it shouldn't be too onerous to.
good point.
It's 3.
I mean, I can represent to the board that that's it. To the extent it's comprehensive, it's three lights. There's nothing.
But the idea is that.
No, I
it's
understand.
Of record.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that that's pretty much as comprehensive as it's going to get.
The photometric is going to be super easy to do.
Yeah.
So that's
All
fine.
right, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
small lift.
yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're not going to waive it. Okay, does the planning board agree the planning department's assessment of additional information must be provided per town code 255-6-50?
Yeah.
The items that were listed?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Site plan is.
Yep, that's what it requires.
All right,
All
thank
right,
you very
very
much.
well. We'll send
Thanks
it.
so much, Eric.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, next item on the agenda. Ed, you can rejoin us now. Is the Wayne Scott Holdings LLC modification. That would be yours, Ms. Baldwin, thank you.
Thank you for assigning that to me.
We're
so close.
I want you to walk over and have an opportunity to see your neighbor.
Put me in water.
Your old pal. Okay. Will, this is yours, you're gonna do it?
If I may, planning board, Brian, Frank, or Chris, or anybody, on that other monitor, if you want to hit the input on that monitor with that remote, that might switch your picture.
This stands out to me. Family planning.
You're gonna have to keep hitting the input until the picture shows up.
What do they want to do?
Let's not talk off. Let's over.
So the family planning, I don't think the planning board is where you need to go. That was a joke. Brian.
Hey, that looks good.
Gotta give Matt the credit.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Take it away, Will.
Great. So this is an application that has been made seeking a modification to the Wainscott Holdings subdivision to expand the previously approved driveway access to a lot not part of the original subdivision, but owned by the same family. The highlighted lots are the original subdivision, and this lot here along the pond is the additional lot. The subdivision is approximately 38.7 acres in size, and the pond lot is approximately 20 acres or 874,401 square feet in size. The lots are zoned A5 residence and are located within the Harbor Protection Overlay District, Agricultural Overlay District, a recommended scenic area of statewide significance, and are on the recommended Community Preservation Fund list. The subdivision is mostly cleared due to ongoing agricultural use of some of the lots. Lot 1, down here, is improved with a 2-story single-family residence, detached garage, swimming pool, porches, and wood decking, while lots 2 and 4 have driveways leading to lot 1. These two. The pond lot is mostly cleared for farming as well, but has a section of duneland vegetation in its southern part between Wainscott Pond and the Atlantic Ocean. So that's this sort of L-shaped area here. And that area is unlikely to be impacted by the proposed access modification. The original subdivision was approved on March 9th, 2018, and included driveway access running along the edge of the agriculture reserved area to the southern lots located along the Atlantic Ocean. And that access is this white driveway running along. The applicant has indicated the driveway was designed to preserve access to the pond lot and seeks to formalize that access with this modification. The project is a Type 2 action pursuant to SECRA and Chapter 128 of the Town Code and requires no further SECRA action at this time. The applicant stated that the pond lot has been accessed by a similar route to the approved driveway for many years, including before the family came into ownership of the properties in 1983. So here's an aerial from 1978, and it's a little bit hard to see, but the access kind of goes along here. And this is from before the families owned the land. This is from after they owned the land, and you can see that same access running along here. And this is a modern aerial image showing access over this common driveway.
So I just have a question, because the photos were not clear. Is the pond lot, the driveway they want to add is just here. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, just here.
Because this all exists, it's all very nice driveway. There's just in, right, that's what we're talking about, okay.
Here's an image taken recently showing the path of driving over into that pond lot. And so this is the final subdivision map. And this is that same driveway here, and this is approximately where they would add that access.
Okay.
All lots are owned by the same family under different LLCs, and the pond lot was given its own LLC within the last year. Access to the pond lot currently exists along the approved driveway over an unimproved section of grass. Although no material change of circumstances is present in this proposed modification, the planning department recommends the recognition of access to the pond lot already accessed by the common driveway is a relatively minor modification and not likely to create negative impacts to the surrounding area. Though the original subdivision created 4 lots, this access modification proposes to provide access for a 5th lot, which is the pond lot. For town code, a common driveway is not permitted to serve more than 4 residential lots. However, lot 4 is an agricultural reserved area and only referred to as a lot for health department purposes and does not count towards the total number of lots per common driveway requirement. After consultation with the town attorney's office, the planning department has determined the proposed access modification is compliant with town code. In conclusion, the planning department recommends the applicant submit a revised survey displaying the proposed access to the pond lot in the next submission.
Thank you very much, Will. Ms. Baldwin?
Good evening, Board. Elizabeth Baldwin, Essex, Hefner, and Angel. I'm here also with Rich Warren from InterScience on behalf of the applicant, which is actually Town Line Holdings, LLC, Wainscott Colors, LLC, and Wainscott Pond, LLC, which are all different entities within the same family. As Will explained, we're really here to just memorialize what we think everyone kind of assumed back in 2018, that there was the access for the pond lot would continue how it was, but it wasn't included in, because it wasn't included in the subdivision, it was not included as part of the common driveway easement that was filed. So now that the family is in the process of estate planning and reorganizing properties amongst themselves, they just wanted to clarify that the access from Town Line can continue down the common driveway, and that pond lot does in fact have access. So that's really why we're here. And in discussions with the planning department and with the town attorney's office, everyone felt that because the family, it's all owned by the same family, the family themselves could give access to the pond lot just to benefit the pond lot, it was felt it would be better for planning purposes to amend, not necessarily replace, the existing common driveway easement with a new common driveway easement that incorporates the pond lot onto it to make it a cleaner easement for the future. And this way there's no overlapping or anything, and this way the pond lot would have that access and it wouldn't be questioned down the road. So that's basically why we're here. I'm not sure, I don't think we have a proposed defined access at this point. It's really just that we can use the road itself, the common driveway itself, to access the pond lot. Should this property ever go through a site plan or some sort of review process, if it was ever built upon, which is not in the cards for this property right now, I think at that point would be when the board would probably want to set where the access is. I don't think you want to lock yourself into an access point on this lot at this time. I think it's just a matter of saying that this lot can be accessed from this road from Town Line, rather than at what point will the access to the pond lot cross over the property boundary of the ag area, because I think the board would want to do that at the point when, if and when this ever is built upon. So.
Very well, thank you. Michael?
Thank you. This seems very straightforward. I noticed that the pond lot has a cover crop, so that is being farmed on right now and historically, and
that's why they still access, and I believe they hunt off of there, and there's farming, so they use it for both purposes.
I saw about 6 bald eagles flying over there when I visited there too. It seems cut and dry to me. I have no objection to it.
My only issue with it is that my understanding is that the narrative contains a reference to estate planning as a change in circumstance. I'm really wary about making any kind of precedent that says that, because if we start making
Yeah.
estate planning a change in circumstance, we're going to have modifications from here to the basement. I mean, I really think that's a dangerous thing. If the basis for the modification, on the other hand, is that you're correcting a mistake, an obvious
Right.
mistake, then I don't have a particular problem with it, and I don't think we have to delve into the change in circumstances dialogue that we have with applicants. We recently had a change in circumstance that we were able to find because there was a building envelope that was made smaller, and that was, I don't want to call it a quid pro quo, but we found that the change in circumstance was the fact that there was a smaller building envelope. You have a building envelope here, maybe you might want to look at that if indeed you're interested in change in circumstance. On the other hand, if it's just a matter of fixing something that everybody knows was a mistake, that might be the cleaner, easier way to do it. I just would want to make sure that the record doesn't contain any reference at all to the estate planning needs as being a change in circumstance, because like I say, that's just a
Good point.
Are we saying that a change in the
I don't think
narrative should be
that's,
changed?
well, yeah, I'm saying,
I don't think that it's the estate planning that is the change in circumstance. I think the estate planning made them realize that
well, that's-
the
The
mistake
impetus
needed to be
for-
corrected.
Yeah.
that's not the first time that's happened in the history of the world, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
But let's just make sure, all right, we'll work with the
make it
planning department and the council if need be, to make sure that there's no implication that
Right.
this is driven by, or not driven by,
Right,
but that it's not an estate planning change in
right.
circumstance.
That's not the reason. It's understood.
Good. Okay, with that, anybody have anything else they want to add?
No, I totally agree with what you said.
So should the applicant submit a revised survey displaying the proposed access to the pond lot? And do we, yeah, I know, it's the way she described
Tricky, I
it.
think.
Well, I think it's like a floating access,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
we've seen floating easements here. This is kind of the same thing.
Right. And I think that's been done before, and that it really should be when the property
yeah,
is being
so you-
built on, that you
That
make
you
that
make-
decision
yeah.
as far as where you want the access, because you don't want to lock yourself in now.
Mhm.
In 20 years, you decide, wait a minute,
And
it really should have been down here.
Right.
And
And considering that there's nothing going on
No.
on the property, maybe it can all be dealt with in the context of your narrative,
mhm,
so that you can describe the intention in your narrative. And I think that would
Yeah.
cover,
Would that do
cover,
it?
cover
Yeah,
you,
okay.
cover us now, make a record, so that
Right.
you all know what we're talking about. And then down the road, if somebody, decides they want to live there.
Want to
Yeah.
show that there is an existing access now?
Yeah, I think it's access from rather than access to.
correct. It's access from town line
Yeah.
to the
Right, to the
property
property.
versus,
Where the access is from.
right, right.
Where it is.
Because that's what they need. That's what they want to clarify and make sure that it's clear down the road, is that they do in fact have access to town line.
Maybe we can see if it'll work in a narrative when you come back. And if the board isn't satisfied with the narrative, then you'll have to go for a survey. But if that's the way the board decides that the narrative issue can be improved.
Okay.
All right. Question number 2, does the board agree a change in circumstances is present?
Not really.
No.
Hear that?
And doesn't need to be.
And doesn't need to be.
And doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
We're correcting an existing.
Ms. Baldwin, do you have anything else on this one? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
So as far as just a narrative, is that just a letter, or how do you usually
It's English language,
Yeah.
paragraphs, type, 26 letters.
write it out?
No, you don't want to do that.
Handwriting.
My handwriting
Go
is
home, take out the laptop.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, finally, on the work session, we have the McGarver Barn modification. That's listed as Dan, but I guess, Will, you're pinch hitting, okay? Ed?
Yep.
And Mr. Crouch, I see. Okay, welcome. Okay. Take it away, Ed. Take it away, Will.
Well, yeah.
This is an application that has been made seeking a modification to a previous site plan approval to remove a fire well, add a curb cut, remove the performance bond, allow longer turnout time for the horses, and allow fence line irrigation. The original application approved a barn with second-story hayloft, 4 paddocks, a jumping ring, and 7 parking spaces. The subject property is approximately 5.1 acres or 222,615 square feet in size and is zoned A3 residence. The lot is located within the South Fork Groundwater Protection Area and the Suffolk County Pine Barrens. The site is considered to be exempt from clearing regulations due to its agricultural use. The lot is currently improved with a 2-story single-family residence with attached garage, covered porches, roof deck, barn, 4 paddocks, jumping ring, 7 parking spaces, horse shelter, swimming pool, pool fencing, hot tub, patio, and pool house. This project is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA and Chapter 128 of the Town Code and requires no further SECRA action at this time. The applicant submitted an email exchange between themselves and the Chief Fire Marshal in which the Fire Marshal indicated public water access will be extended to within 1,000 feet of the property by the Suffolk County Water Authority. With public water access being available closer to the property, the previously approved fire well would be unnecessary to maintain. The applicant stated the fire department requested a new curb cut to be installed at the northwest corner of the property and Hunting Road. That proposed curb cut is up here in this northwest corner. The town consulting engineer indicated that the new curb cut and driveway are acceptable, but requested the applicant submit a revised site plan showing the new locations of the drainage swale and fencing if they are to remain. That drainage swale is present here in an area that would be disrupted by the proposed driveway, and the wood fencing similarly is in an area that would be disrupted. The original site plan approval included a pasture management plan, which contained 2 conditions of a typical turnout time of 4 hours and underground irrigation. The applicant has stated a 4-hour turnout time is not sufficient for the horses, and below ground irrigation within the paddocks is prone to damage by the horses. The applicant has suggested the turnout time limit be removed from the pasture management plan, as the pasture management plan also required rotation and rest of the paddocks to prevent overuse. Regarding irrigation, the applicant proposes amending the condition to permit fence line irrigation to prevent further horse-related damage. The original site plan approval for the project included security in the amount of $65,000 in the form of a performance bond. The applicant attached the town board resolution dated September 15th, 2011, which eliminated the requirement of performance bonds for work related to site plan approvals. The applicant has indicated in their cover letter, based on consultation with the planning department, a performance bond is no longer necessary. In conclusion, the applicant should submit a revised site plan illustrating the new locations of the items to be displaced by the new curb cut and driveway if they are to remain on site.
Thanks, Will, very much. Mr. Crouch.
Thomas Crouch of Wayland's Filer here for the applicants, David and Lori McGarva. We're also here with their vet, Dr. Nora Kleps. As Will summarized, we're really asking for 4 modifications or 4 changes to the original approval. Yes, we met with the fire department a while ago and discussed that they had gotten notice that the water authority was going to extend the main within 1,000 feet of the property, so the well wouldn't be necessary. We worked with them. They wanted a curb cut, which we put on the amended site plan, and that would satisfy their needs. So would ask the board and the planning department, please reach out to the fire department and confirm, whatever you need from them. The performance bond, that was eliminated as a requirement by the town board in 2011. Eric Shantz sent me the resolution, so, Nancy, if you want to confirm that, you're welcome to. The other two items, we have the applicants and their vet can speak more fully on that. These are basically, we're asking for the removal of the requirement for a 4-hour turnabout. The standard practice is for no such requirement for a horse farm. They'll have 6 horses. It's not good for the horses, and they'll have 4 paddocks that they can use to rotate to prevent overwear of the paddocks themselves. And then the irrigation, that's the standard practice is for fence line irrigation, because if you have sprinkler heads underground, horses tend to trample on things, and it would, damage the lines, damage the sprinkler heads. So my clients are here. If you have any questions about specifically the 4-hour turnabout and the fence line irrigation, because I'm not an expert in horse farms. So anyway, let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to make those changes to the site plan itself. We put in the curb cut in the driveway and didn't really think about the drainage swale and the trees that need to be adjusted. So anyway, thanks for your time.
Is the waiver from the town board in the record?
Yes, I submitted the resolution itself.
So we have
in my letter.
The
Yeah.
planning department has that now?
Yes.
Okay, very well. Okay, good.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. We're not experts on this either, amazingly enough. Yeah, I've been on this board for 7 years. I don't think I've ever heard the term pasture management plan before. So this is a really interesting one. So yeah, just taking your requests sort of one by one, the new curb cut makes perfect sense, of course, coming in from the Hunting Road side. And yeah, so we just need to have the site plan amended, as you've already suggested you'll do, including modifications to the swale at that side of the property. In terms of the irrigation, that certainly seems, perfectly reasonable and fine to me to move that out of the pasture land itself. I think, in terms of, the turnout time, I'm sure that, what is sort of conventional and what's sort of acceptable in the industry around that. I don't think any of us, well, I don't, I'll speak for myself, have any issue with that being amended. I think, though, we'd like to have something in writing from some professional organization that establishes standards for things like this, right? Something that indicates that it's, 8 hours, or there's no set, whatever it is. I think we need something from a professional organization that will sort of substantiate what an appropriate turnout time actually is. I think that's one thing that I'd like to see. In terms of the performance bond, if the town board has already determined that they don't need them any longer, I think we need to deal with that. But I think we might want to take a moment to make sure that we're on, proper legal footing about how we deal with that issue. But I think conceptually, I'm fine with that. That certainly makes sense. It's not required. Why tie the money up, right? So that's what I have on it. I think, conceptually it all looks fine to us, but we do need to have some substantiation on the turnout time. And I think we want to figure out a little more closely how to deal with this performance bond issue, so we know we're doing it correctly.
I have a question. Why was there a 4-hour limit in the first
My
place?
question as well.
If you're going to speak, go ahead, Thomas,
I don't know. I mean, the approval's from 2007, so I don't know, and I'm not sure why, there's no video. I can't go back and watch the video, but there's not, yeah, so I'm not sure. I just know from speaking with my clients and their vet that that's just not a standard requirement, and so I can't really.
Do you propose to have the horses or 1 or 2 horses out 24/7?
365 days a year if possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's healthier for them.
you're going to speak, you need to come up and introduce yourself, and the microphone won't pick you up back there. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kleps, and I've been practicing since '92. And I've had horses personally for over 40 years. And the consensus in the equine community is for the best health of the horse, because they are prey animals and also grazing animals. If you confine them in a stall for a long period of time, they develop bad habits, their mental state deteriorates, they're standing in their own mess, they have a 12 by 12 box stall. The best thing for them is to be out moving, imitating grazing if there's grass. There's fewer respiratory problems, fewer upset stomach problems, and their mental health is better. That's pretty much it. It's for the health of the horse.
It wouldn't be too much to put something together.
I can go to our organization, it's called the American Association of Equine Practitioners, and that's our kind of go-to place where we have questions about things.
That's what we're looking for.
I have a
Yeah,
related
it's like the
question.
AMA, AVMA, AAP is the equine professional.
Understand that, we're making a determination, and none of us, at least as far as I know, has any expertise. So in order for us to be able to endorse the request and say, sure, no problem, the record really needs to contain something in the nature of an expert's opinion.
Sure.
Or, some kind of,
I can do
something that if somebody complains down the road, we can say, the experts told us
Yes.
this is how you do it.
I'm not an expert, but they
Okay,
are.
well, if you can find,
They are.
There you go.
let's see, Jen, I'm sorry.
That's
Didn't
okay.
mean to
My
interrupt.
question is, I don't know who to, you probably work with other farms and
Yes,
barns
I
that
do.
have horses. Are there any other restrictions on any other
No,
barns in the area?
not that I know of.
Just curious.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, this is the application that we have before us now today. So,
absolutely. I
well,
understand
yeah,
that.
I understand. It's all about making a record and all about making
Exactly.
sure that, like I say, nobody's going to say.
Yeah,
what
as
to
a
do.
vet, I know we like records too.
Yeah.
Everything in writing.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
very well.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Thanks for listening.
Does anyone else have any questions, comments, issues they want to raise? Okay, I'm gonna- All right, I'm wondering about this, do we agree to remove the performance bond? I mean, if the town board's already done it, there is a kind of supremacy
I'm
clause.
assuming
isn't
it's just like a release of security type something. that
Okay. Is
we-
it
But I think
something?
we should just say pending, consultation with
Yeah.
our council about how to do that.
Yeah, and it may be that the bond itself says that this board and not the town board is the one that has to issue the release. So
Yeah, I'll
if you
look
could
into
look
it.
into that, council could look into that, then
Sam, it's very easy. It's done by resolution, releasing the security.
but it's our resolution, right? It's not the town's resolution?
There you go.
Planning board.
It's the planning board, so, okay. So, thank you. Now we know the answer. Okay, so, okay, in that case, will we agree to remove the performance bond?
Yes.
Yeah.
All around? Yes, okay.
Yeah.
There you are. Should the 4-hour turnaround time be removed from the pasture management plan? Pending, some expert report.
Opinion.
Okay. Should the pasture management plan permit fence line irrigation?
I think we can say yes on that
All
one.
good on that? And should the applicant submit a site depicting the new proposed locations of the drainage swale and fencing? That's, that one, is yes. Okay, thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. Okay, we're moving to the regular meeting now. First item on the agenda is, of the regular meeting is the Montauk Shores condo sewage treatment plant. Ed, that's yours. Do you need the?
I've got it right here. Thank you very much. In the matter of the application of Montauk Shores condominium sewer treatment plant, site plan, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-32.1-1-267.1, site plan special permit approval. I've read the findings and determination of the board and call for the adoption of this determination.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed 7-0. Abe, Snyder Phase Commercial.
All right, in the matter of the application of Snyder Phase Commercial Site Plan Special Permit, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-143-1, 12.3, 12.4, and 12.5, extension of time. I've read the resolution for the extension of time and approved the extension.
That's through December 18th, 2025?
Yes.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Yes, 7. Michael, was that again?
That was, yeah, aye.
Thank you.
Yes, aye.
Whether it was an aye or a sigh. Okay, yes, 7-0, so we have that. Then finally, we have the Heritage Farm, and Michael, that's you.
In the matter of the application of Heritage Farm Laney Final Subdivision Modification, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-157-3-7.1. I have read the resolution and move for its adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those, that was, that's it.
First,
I heard him first.
duking it out
Yeah,
for
that's
over
it.
here.
Sorry.
That one I kept
Hold on,
quiet.
I don't know, this is usually Johnny on the
I know,
spot
yes,
with these,
yes.
not this time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's 7-0. Okay. All right, the last 3 things fall to me. I'm gonna do the Board of Review first. This is the request of Claver Lopez. I hope I pronounced the first name correctly. Apologize if I didn't. Locate for the premises located at 31 7th Street, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-76-7-15.5. The work to be performed is on 6th Street and 7th Street. The repair on 6th Street, it's repair existing asphalt as necessary, starting at Gardner Avenue and continuing along 6th Street for 24 feet, and also paves 260 linear feet along 6th Street, starting at the intersection of Gardner Avenue, continuing south, minimum of 1.5 inches of New York State Type 6F asphalt top to the cul-de-sac, including, the cul-de-sac as directed by the town engineer. And on 7th Street, repair the existing asphalt pavement as necessary with base course asphalt starting at 155 feet from the intersection of Gardner Avenue and continuing along 7th Street for a distance of 30 feet as directed by the town engineer, and likewise pave 240 feet along 7th Street, starting at the edge of the existing top course asphalt pavement, approximately 155 feet from the intersection of Gardner Avenue and continuing south with a minimum of 1.5 inches of New York State Type 6F asphalt as directed by the town engineer. The bond on this is $16,500. I have reviewed the Board of Review and I move for its adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, 7-0. Finally, I have read the board minutes of December 4th, 2024. They appear correct and complete, and I move for their adoption. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passed. The board minutes are adopted. Okay, folks, the last thing on the plate is the Senior Center Monroe Balancing of Public Interest Test, which I had added to the agenda. I want to say a few words about the town's Monroe resolution, which was adopted by a 3-1 vote on December 10th, which was after our last meeting. I do not want this to become any kind of discussion. I just want, while I'm still chair and still on the board, to address this matter because it's important. And we all know I'm a lawyer, but I'm not a land use attorney or a municipal attorney, and I do not give this board legal advice. So I rely on the good advice of the town attorney when it comes to the legal matters that come before this board. So I made an inquiry of the town attorney with respect to the time frame within which the planning board could bring an Article 78 proceeding with respect to the town's Monroe resolution. And I sent all of you a copy of that letter, and you will have that. Yesterday, the town attorney advised the planning board, you all got a copy of that email, that the planning board would have 4 months to bring an Article 78 proceeding regarding the Monroe resolution. So there is no immediate do-it-today urgency this issue can wait until next year. The planning board has the time to consult with an attorney and make a legally informed decision about what its rights are, and if on the basis of its counsel advice, the planning board decides it wants to bring an Article 78 proceeding, the planning board will have enough time to go forward. But I have my own opinion about why this board should retain counsel regarding an Article 78 proceeding, which I would like to share. I have misgivings about the town's Monroe resolution that have nothing to do with the senior center itself, per se. My misgivings are about how the Monroe resolution regards the planning board. The issue at hand is whether the town will adhere to its own laws, which, as the resolution itself says, the town is, quote, presumed to be subject to. And that's at the bottom of page 1 of the resolution. In other words, the town admits that if this was a private application, it would come before the planning board for site plan review. Now, under the Monroe case, the town has to employ a 9-part balancing test to determine whether to waive its own laws. And as I read it, the sole driving reason that the town gives to waive its own laws is that the delays that the town claims it will encounter if those laws are enforced outweigh the presumed needs of its aging population. And speaking only for myself as an aside, I'd add that in making these presumptions, I believe the town's Monroe resolution falls short. In any event, Section 4 of the Monroe resolution states, it is the town board's position that given the immediate and increasing needs of the town's aging population, the senior center must be constructed as proposed, and its existing land use regulations have a prohibitive effect upon the town's ability to construct the facility, close quote. And so the town board, not the planning board, will, again quoting the resolution, quote, approve site work to ready the premises, close quote, and quote, approve a final site plan for the construction of the senior center, close quote. Now, you'll recall that earlier this year, the town, this board disputed the town taking lead agency status under SECRA. That's a separate dispute from the issue of the Monroe Declaration, which is about the enforceability of town laws over the town. But in making the determination, the acting commissioner, I believe he's the acting commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation, in his findings stated, the town board should be designated as lead agency for the SECRA review of the construction of the proposed senior center based on the second criterion. There are 3 criterions that the DEC looks at in deciding lead agency disputes. They identified the second criteria, which basically said, in reaching that, they said the town board has the greatest ability to amend its plans or avoid or reduce the project's impacts through its authority over the project. And that was the basis that the DEC ruled that the town board should be lead agency. But in making that determination, as in the finding, the next paragraph of the findings stated, and I'm going to quote, it takes a moment. This designation does not change or diminish the responsibilities or authority of the planning board or other involved agencies with jurisdiction over the project. To reiterate, the planning board, whether it remains as an involved or interested agency, has a role to play in advising the town board, given its statutory responsibilities and collective experience in managing the town's SECRA process in other regulatory reviews. The town board indicated that it intends to consult with the planning board on the development of the senior center. I encourage the town board to do so. I likewise encourage the town board to solicit the advice of other involved or interested agencies. Now, the Monroe resolution does mention the DEC dispute and the determination that the DEC made that the town board should be the lead agency. But it doesn't contain any mention of that last admonition from the DEC that I just read. Instead, the resolution states that, quote, it quote, shall request written comment from the planning board, close quote, and that the planning board, quote, shall have 30 days from the date of such request by the town board in which to provide written comment, after which the town board may take further action on the project as it deems appropriate, close quote. In other words, the resolution gives this board, the planning board, one shot and 30 days to prepare that shot. Now, I think it's incumbent on the planning board to, at the very least, speak to an independent attorney and decide whether the Monroe resolution is good enough, whether this board should bring an Article 78 proceeding. That's the way I feel. The good news is that we're not going to make any decisions now. And in fact, I don't want, as I said, have any discussion about it. I wanted to raise the issue on my way out the door, because while I'm still chairman and still on this board, I wanted to express that opinion. In a few weeks, this board will have a new chairman, and under the new chairman, you can have that discussion, just not now. Which is a kind of backwards way of saying that I've been informed in a conversation that I had a couple of weeks ago with the supervisor that I'm not going to be asked to continue as the chairman of the planning board. I have thought about it. I have another year on my term as a member of this board. And I'll tell you, I've lost a lot of sleep trying to come up with a decision about whether I want to remain on the planning board or not. I have decided that I'm not going to. I'm going to resign from the board. I have to talk to the folks down at HR and make sure that I do that just exactly the right way. But that's going to happen. I don't think, I'm driven by really one consideration in terms of resign, well, two considerations. In terms of resigning, that is that you're going to have a new chair. And I don't want to be looming over, it's maybe a little egocentric for me to say, but I just don't want me to be on the board with a new chair here. I want the new chair to have, the same freedom that I had to guide the board without somebody saying, that's not the way I did it. And so I think it's very important that I move on and give somebody else who's such as you guys who are new to the board the opportunity to come on board the board and participate. Also, I've been doing things of a public nature in this town since, well, 28 or 29 years now. First, I did 10 years on the Wayne-Scott CAC, 8 years as chairman. Then I was on this planning board for about 2 years earlier in this century, and at the beginning sometime. And then when there was a change in political parties, I did political work, and then I was appointed to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for the town of East Hampton. I did that for 5 years, and then I got named as vice chair of the ZBA. I did that for a year, and then I was asked to serve as chairman of this body. And I'll say, without equivocation, it's been the honor of a lifetime and great privilege to have served as chairman of this body. It means all I can say to me. And I'm just going to say a couple of personal things. In 2019, when I was appointed chairman of the planning board, I had only one personal goal, and it was a simple one: to be the best chairman of the planning board that there's ever been. That was my goal. I've been a lawyer for, if you're gonna go, you're gonna aim. Right. I've been a lawyer for over 40 years. I've been on many boards and committees. I've been a chairman of a number of them, and I think I knew what I needed to do to achieve that goal. In the first place, I wanted to make sure that this board always adhered to the law, that the law was always applied fairly, evenly, and consistently. I wanted to make sure that no favoritism was ever shown by the planning board, but I wanted to make sure that we were flexible and practical within the bounds of the law, and I like to think that we did that. My next concern was to make sure that every applicant who appeared before the board was treated with respect and dignity. That's why I wore a jacket and tie at every meeting. But I recognize that the applicants and the landowners had a lot at stake. They had invested lots of money, they had their vision, and they had a right to have their applications treated fairly and evenly. I've striven to do that. I've striven to do that with good humor, and I hope that they recognize that and that I've been able to do that throughout. My next concern was to make sure that the town's planning professionals, and I'm glad to see the two of them are still here, grinding it out, were given the deference that they deserve while recognizing that we, the planning board, have the final word. That's how this is structured. This is a very careful balancing act because the town's professionals, and I'm really truthfully glad to see you guys here, are professionals who are so good and so careful and so well-intentioned. But at the same time, we have a job to do, and maybe once in a while, we might disagree with the planning staff, and, you know, we're the ones who are appointed, so, and we get the big bucks for that, so we're the final word. Likewise, I also learned very quickly that the input of the public had to be considered, but that we were sometimes hamstrung by the public hearing rules in secret. I may have had a few struggles on this score in the beginning, but I like to think that over time we came to a consistent policy that permitted public input within the bounds of the law. And one final concern, which was of particular importance to me and by which I would judge my own success, was to make sure that everyone at this table had every opportunity to ask every question and to express his or her opinion without any feeling that they were being limited or hindered by me. I've been on committees with overbearing chairmen, and I didn't like it one bit. I didn't like it when chairman ran roughshod over the members and let them know how they should vote. I hope that none of you ever felt shortchanged and that you always felt that you were able to express your own opinions. I think we've accomplished a lot over the past 6 years. We made a number of different and important changes to the process, including how applications were assigned to board members, to how we deal with phone towers, most significantly, to what was prioritized in applications, and to how our meetings and communications were structured. There's still a lot more to do, and I wish that I could have gotten all of us iPads, because this stuff about making 10 copies of every document is nuts. This planning board, and really, I guess all the other boards, require that too much paper be used, and we should change that. So finally, I'd like to say some thank yous. First and foremost, my wife, Deborah. I want to thank her because for the last 6 years, we haven't taken a vacation that didn't begin on a Thursday or end on a Tuesday. I also want to thank her for always having a hot meal waiting for me when I came home on Wednesday nights. I can't imagine what I've got waiting for me tonight. Next, I want to thank the current supervisor and the current town board. I asked to be reappointed last year when the administration changed. The town board, the supervisor, and the town board said yes. I am not chairman for life, and I don't own this job. And I appreciate very much the opportunity that they gave me to serve this last year. I want to thank the town attorney's office. It is not easy to represent attorneys, as any attorney will tell you. We're pains in the neck, and we ask too many questions, and we worry about things that nobody but an attorney will worry about, and I'm sure that I was just as much a joy as any other attorney that the town boards had to deal with. So I thank the town attorney's office. Jason and Matt at LTV and everybody else who's worked. I look up, I don't know why I do that, but I know I'm not the only one. I want to thank you guys for the work that you've done over the years. I particularly want to thank you for the work that was done during COVID. Because, you know, I mean, it seems like, and it is, ancient history. But we had, what was it, a year and a half, where we did meetings by Zoom, and and the rest of the town did meetings by Zoom, and that could not have been done without LTV. And so I thank LTV for the work that they did and that they continue to do right up to this minute. I want to thank the professional planners. There's a coterie of planners that come in and represent applicants. They come here and they are zealous advocates, which is a phrase that we use in another field, but they're professionals. You know, the town code and the rules that this board and the other boards apply are, I don't want to say arcane, but they're complex and they're multi-layered and there's a lot going on. And I can't tell you the number of times, and I'm sure I'm not the only one at the table who feels this way, that we've had an applicant come before us without the benefit of a professional planner or an attorney. And I've sat here and I said, well, go hire somebody, it'll help you, it'll be quicker and easier. And you guys do a great job, you really do, and I admire the work you do. In that same regard, the attorneys. Now, you know, I know that there's not always been a lot of, oh, there's one, not a lot of attorneys. I've served as on this board or as chairman of the board. I thank you for indulging me and going on excursions and conversation about the law. The quality of legal work on behalf of applicants in this town is just outstanding. Again, as I said regarding the planning professionals, you know, it ain't easy representing clients who have billions of dollars at stake and who want it the way they want it. And I know. And the attorneys who do the work before this board uniformly do a great job. Again, the planning staff, I'm glad that I have two of the most outstanding members, Brian and Chris, here with us to hear this, so you guys can tell them that I said this. But also Don and Will and Tina. I'm glad that Tina was here last week because I had the opportunity to thank her. It's not easy work, what do you do? You have to interface with those members of the public, and you have to tell them that I'm sorry you can't build a steel mill on Further Lane and other things like that. And it's very hard work. And then you have to make us look good, which is even harder work. So thank you. Thank you for your professionalism and your knowledge of the law that you help us to implement. Finally, I want to thank Peter Van Scoik because if it weren't for Peter, I wouldn't be here. I met Peter 20-some years ago when I was first appointed to the planning board. He was on the board already. He and I had there was a parking lot in Amagansett. I think there was an issue with their dumpster. He went out with me, we were talking about it, and I said, I don't know. And he said, I was new, and he says, well, is it in the interest of good planning? And a bell rang in my head and a light went off. And Peter's always been there. And Peter was the one who appointed me as he was supervisor when I was appointed as vice chair of the ZBA. And then a year later, I got a phone call from him and he asked me to be chairman of this board and hung up. Spoke to my wife and called him right back and he said, yes, I'll be happy to do this. And I was very, very happy that he called and that the confidence that he showed in me. At the same time, I'd also like to thank Sylvia Overby because from the time that I was on the Wayne-Scott CAC and starting to get involved, she was always there for me and always helped me along and brought me on board different committees. It was the comprehensive plan committee and so thank you, wherever you are, hopefully watching this, Sylvia. Finally, Jody, right over there. Jody is unfailing. Jody is reliable. Jody cares more about this process than anyone I know, and more than she'll ever admit. You cannot be chairman of this board without Jody's able assistance, her honesty, and her great guidance. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you. That's it. As for the last thank you, it's you guys. Thank you all very much. Also, thanks to Ian, Kathy, Randy, and Sharon, wherever you are. for the dedication that you had to this process and for the love that you show for this town by being here and doing this work. This isn't easy. Anyone who watched just tonight's meeting knows that you didn't just come here and, you know, what's the phrase, phone it in. There's a complicated issues. There are questions that have to be answered. There are issues that require analysis. You guys all bring it. You bring it every week. It's every week, every 2 weeks that we're here. And I really thank you. So, fare thee well. Brian will appreciate this. Let the words be yours. I am done with mine. You know where that comes from, Brian. Thank you.
I know where that comes from.
Thanks, Sam, so much.
Thank you.
You've been chair for 6 of the 7 years I've been on this board. I have learned so much from you.
Thank you very much.
I've learned so much from you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sam,
Thank you.
I was appointed the same year that you were chairman. You've been the best chairman that I've ever had.
Well, thank you. That's good enough. I like that. I win.
Think about that. I'm like,
Oh.
Seriously, I've seen you deal with people getting angry, both the applicants and sometimes the board members. And the one thing that I, really commend you for is you've handled every one of those things with aplomb, intelligence, and what really struck me most was kindness and understanding. And I really appreciated that. And I've grown to love the way you did this job. I don't know if we'll ever get a chairman as good as you've been. And I'm really grateful that I was appointed that same year that you were, because I learned a lot. And I think the town is really lucky to have had you as a chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I was watching My Fair Lady the other day, and there's a line in there about you'll muddle through, and I'm sure you will. Look, I don't know officially who's going to be chair, but I think you're going to be in good hands. Very good hands. Thank you all very much. I'm going to make the last resolution. I hereby move that we are adjourned. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah.
5 to 2. We're adjourned.